So the boyfriend was a little bit less keen than me about doing premarital counselling. Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Alice and my channel is fairly random. It's full of all random stuff like baking videos, how-to videos, there's sometimes a weekly vlog, and I'm currently in the process of buying a house. So if you want to follow on with that process, you might want to subscribe. But anyway, today I'm going to be talking about premarital counselling. I don't think it's a topic that gets spoken about that much, particularly when people decide to do premarital counselling whilst in the pre-engagement season. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about why I was so keen on doing premarital counselling, what sort of resources we used to do it together, and thirdly, how we found it and kind of like an update as to where we are now. Yeah, so I've made some notes here. So I was just very keen on doing premarital counselling. My parents were married for 16 years and then had a very messy divorce, and even now, 17 years later, they can't talk to each other. I don't know, they can't be civilised. They haven't been able to move on. Anyway, so I was just like, if I get married, I didn't want to get divorced and go through that sort of thing. I don't want my kids to go through that sort of thing. So if we're getting married, I want to do this properly, and I just want to do counselling so we're on the same page. And I actually wanted to do it before getting engaged, which I think it tends to be people do it after getting engaged. So although we have actually talked about a lot, boyfriends and I like to talk about all sorts of topics and we are very open in that respect, I still thought that going through like a guided course with set topics meant we would definitely like touch on every single thing. And of course there were things in the course that we had already discussed, but it was just good to bring it up because we might have not discussed them recently, or maybe even our opinions on certain things might have changed since we previously discussed it. Okay, I've now got 3 reasons which I've summarised about premarital counselling. So personally, I have read that it is better to do as a pre-engagement activity, because if you do it between engagement and the wedding day, it just becomes something to tick off in between, like choosing the perfect wedding dress and tasting cake. It just becomes something that's just like tick off rather than something you're like, yes, let's do this, and like really do it properly. It just becomes another thing on the to-do list. The second reason is that if you did do premarital counselling in the pre-engagement stage and you did break up, then that is actually a good result. And the reason why it's a good result is that you haven't taken the relationship any further. Because imagine if you got engaged to someone and then you found out that you weren't a great fit and then you split up, you broke off the engagement. That's just really embarrassing, especially in the whole age of social media. So like, if you do the premarital counselling and you break up, then that is a good result. I wasn't expecting that to happen with my boyfriend and I. And the third thing is what I kind of touched on earlier, but it's just making sure that you're on the same page and thinking about how your life together is going to look, and just like talking about the future and things like that, just making sure that you have discussed that rather than just living in the moment. There's a Christian couple called Adam and Carissa King, and they run a sort of platform called Dear Young Married Couple. They have a podcast channel and I've listened to a lot of their podcasts, but they have a package which they call PrEquipped. So this is like a 7-week package, all for like people that are either about to get married or about to get engaged. The statistic that they say like up big on their advertising is that if you do premarital counselling, you reduce your divorce rate by 31%, which is a massive percentage, which kind of makes me think premarital counselling is a great idea, something to do. Yeah, so the Dear Young Married Couple course costs $147 US dollars. However, we bought it while it was on offer and it worked out at about £98. However, a little bit disappointed that it wasn't like the complete package included in that. So they sell these card decks called Foundations, Realizations and Expectations, and they sell these on Amazon or through their website. So like if you buy the pre-equipped course, then you can get the card deck for like £15, which is lower than the usual rate. But then I kind of like talking to someone via email and they said it cost £42 for the international shipping. Anyway, I was a bit miffed because I was like, so much of the course, like there's a whole section on each week of the course which refers to you using these cards. So you kind of feel like you need to have the cards to be able to complete the course properly. However, we kind of mitigated that because I was not spending like an additional upwards of £70 getting these card decks. So we ended up using some questions which I found online through the Girl Refined Ministries. So they are two sisters called Bethan and Kristen, I think. Yeah, but anyway, so on their website they've got 136 questions that you should ask before you get married to someone. So They are very conservative Christians, and I think some of them were a bit conservative for the boyfriend and I. So out of the 136 questions, maybe there's a few I didn't write down. But anyway, I decided to go through the online webpage and write them down on little pieces of pink paper, and then I have put them into a jar. So it's just all sorts of questions that you should ask before getting into a relationship with someone. So here's a question which says, list the 5 most important characteristics of a spouse. And here's a question that is favourite sources for reading the news. We did the pre-equipped course over Microsoft Teams because the boyfriend and I are in a long distance relationship. So I'm not going to go through each of the 7 weeks and tell you what they are about to see if you think it might be interesting. So the first week is called Talking and Tuning In. So you learn about daily check-in and how to listen well. So like sometimes you think you're listening but you're actually not listening, because they go through some like good counselling techniques and things like that. Anyway, second week is Fighting Fair, so how to argue well. So it's important because you are going to have arguments because you're 2 separate people. And they also use the example that if you've been married to someone for 30 years and you're like, oh, we've never had an argument, that's actually a bit worrying. So they go through how to argue well, and there's like a 6-step PDF. Third week is relationship rhythm. So what do you like doing individually and as a couple? So it's really important that you hold on to your individual interests, and also you find things that you can do as a couple. So it's just good to go through and sort of make a list, and then also kind of like brainstorm ideas for future dates or like future holidays you want to go on. So we found that week quite fun. And then the 4th week is sex and intimacy. So this is talking about your love languages. So there's 5 love languages, and there's a quiz you can do online. And then also things to discuss before marriage. And I think it's really good that the course actually discussed this, because I can see a lot of Christian courses completely skipping off sex and intimacy off the topic. Also, if you're in a relationship with someone that's previously had sex with other people or been intimate with someone else, then there's an additional PDF that you can go through with extra questions to ask as well. The 5th week is money, money, money. So you're kind of like rating your values for certain things, like would you just buy cheap food? What's your opinion on buying a new car? That kind of thing. And then also like a checklist of everything you need to discuss. So like, what is your salary before tax, after tax? What are your debts? Like you might have student debts. Just making sure you have discussed all those, I think, is really important. And then also budgeting, which was really good because I already have a budget. So I shared my screen because we were doing it over Microsoft Teams, and I showed the boyfriend my Excel spreadsheet and we went through the costs of like, so I really did enjoy the money, and that was probably the week I was quite excited about. The 6th week was family and friends. So it's like repeat or not to repeat, talking about how your family of origin. So that means like what your upbringings are and how they would have shaped how you want to do things now. So like certain traditions that your family might have around Christmas is like you must do that for your own children, or like there's certain things that you did as a family that you don't want to do again. So that was really good to discuss as well. And then also talking about friendship outside of the marriage. And then the 7th week is mission and purpose. So this is a marriage mission statement, which is like a PDF, and you go through structure and sort of like talking about what your goals for life together would be. It sounds really intense, but we actually really enjoyed it. Yeah, so that's the 7 weeks, and there were about 15 PDFs to download, and each week there was at least 2 videos for us to watch. So I was just sharing my screen and also sharing the audio so the boyfriend could watch through his side. And we did it that way, and then paused it when we wanted to discuss things, and then we went through the PDFs together. But yeah, we found it really great. We haven't done the questions over Microsoft Teams. These are more like during dates. Okay, so now I'm going to do a sort of update and talk about where we are with the counselling. So we have entirely finished the whole Dear Young Married Couple Pre-Equipped course. We've got our completion certificate and we've finished all of that off. And we really did actually enjoy it. I thought the boyfriend would flake out like first week because they'd be like, this is stupid. And I was kind of thinking some weeks would be a bit silly. But we actually made it to the end and we actually were like engaged and like happy to do it, which was great. Some of the weeks that there was like the videos slightly longer, or maybe there's just more to discuss. So quite a few of the weeks we found we had to do over 2 sessions, and those could be like an hour and a half or 2 hours for each of the sessions. Just because we both like to talk a lot, and I like to do sort of hypothetical scenarios and after if this happened, what would we do? Another update is we are still going through these questions. We probably have about, I'll say 50 questions left. This might take us another couple of months to get through, I think. Now, overall, I think that doing this premarital counselling was really beneficial. Although we are not using all of the techniques at the moment, like the arguing well PDF and like how to work through an argument. We're not really arguing because we're not living together, but I think things like that will become more useful once we are living together and able to put these into practice. But we have been putting other parts of the course into practice, so it's like the daily check-in activity and things like that. And I think we've always been very open at talking about topics, but it definitely made us talk even more. So overall, I did really enjoy doing premarital counselling, and I would recommend doing it before getting engaged. This was something that I really wanted to do before getting engaged. It was something that I wanted to tick off, and I'm pleased that we have done that now. So anyway, thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please can you give it a thumbs up, and bye.